Thank you, Nathalie, and good afternoon, everyone. So before we start, I'd like to encourage our audience online to ask their questions so that we make sure that we have a lively debate after the presentation of our panelists. The first panel, we heard quite a lot of good, concrete examples, actually. But this one, we're going to look more into the vulnerability aspect and how new practices such as energy communities, energy sharing, can help vulnerable people access to renewable energy. And we will hear from two or three panelists coming from two different organizations. First, we'll hear from the city of Balenyà in Catalonia in Spain, Virginia and Laia, who will tell us about how they set up an energy community there and what it brought to vulnerable people there. And then we'll hear from Halina Jagielska from the European Youth Energy Network, and looking maybe at the specific challenges of young people in terms of a specific group, which vulnerabilities you need to address as well when talking about access to renewable energy. So without further ado, I'd like to give the floor to our Spanish colleagues. Virginia, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here despite the strike. It is comforting to see so many people interested in the topic of renewable energies for vulnerable consumers. It has been a pleasure to listen to all the previous speakers about regulations and energy sharing initiatives. Being here and sharing all this knowledge among all of us can surely help us achieve our goals. We have brought a presentation and I will show you a few slides. We will try to be very quick, very fast. We come from Catalonia, from Balenyà, an inland area 60 kilometers north of Barcelona. Ours is a rather small town of about 4,000 inhabitants. It is a village of working class people. The average income is below the average in Catalonia. I would like to tell you about our project, which is a renewable energy community, which we founded in our town, and we called it Balenyà Sostenible. Balenyà Sostenible means Balenyà Sustainable. Okay, here is just we go through what we've been doing. In 2021, we constituted the cooperative. Then in 2022, we had the first grant, the first subsidy. In 2023, we installed the first photovoltaic installation. We also bought a car. And we started the project for vulnerable families. In 2024, we started with the international cooperation, which we are doing in Senegal. Last time we brought some solar cookers there. And in 2025, we installed the sixth installation, the sixth site. Okay, now I will just go through how we constituted our community. On the left, there is the directive, which we all know. And on the right, I can list very briefly how we have been meeting all the necessities to cover the directive. So we are a consumer cooperative. The capital contribution for every member is 50 euros, and all the members have the same rights, and one member, one vote. Then we have done all the installations with credit banks, and we haven't had any large investment from a company. We have also had grants from the European Community. I also want to say that nowadays in Spain, we can share the electricity with people living 2 kilometers away from each installation. Before it was much smaller, it was 500 meters. Okay, at the moment we have 190 members, which this represents 20% of the families in Balenyà. And these members are individuals, shops, and local enterprises as well, small. The goal of our cooperative is the energy transition. We also want to save money for all the members, and we want to assist vulnerable families as well.
Thank you, Virginia. Now I'll shortly introduce you to the already executed projects. Within 4 years, we've installed 6 photovoltaic roofs, and it adds up to a total of 570 kilowatt peak in different roofs around the town, both public and private. We've also completed 6 chargers for electrical vehicles, and we own a shared electrical van that members of the cooperative and city council staff can use. But now the main question is, how do we integrate vulnerable consumers in Balenyà Sostenible? So, well, 10% of the energy produced by Balenyà Sostenible is allocated to vulnerable families. Balenyà is a small town, but it has social services which exploits through la Mancomunitat La Plana, which, among other things, manages the social services for 17 towns in the county. Another thing is that Balenyà can produce their energy thanks to the assignment of public roofs, and in return supplies energy, part of the energy for municipal facilities. And thanks to the Next Generation EU funds, Balenyà covers 60% of the cost of the photovoltaic installations, and the other 40% of the cost charges 0.09 euros per kilowatt hour to the members of the community when they use our energy. So once Balenyà could start to produce their energy, la Mancomunitat La Plana proposed different vulnerable families and covered the initial 50 euros of capital investment, so these families could be part of the cooperative. Not only we want to give free energy to those vulnerable families in our town, but we want them to be active members of our community and empower them. This is a spot of the Catalan TV that, together with the Barcelona delegation of the European Commission, visited us to highlight our project on the integration of vulnerable families into our cooperative. The agreement between Balenyà Sostenible and la Mancomunitat La Plana to integrate vulnerable consumers into our energy sharing scheme has 2 main objectives. The first one is to establish the selection criteria for the families, so they receive our energy. And our initiative does not target extreme vulnerable families because these ones already have other types of aid from the Catalan government. However, we target moderately vulnerable families that they don't have access to social benefits, they have either low income and other types of, like maybe they are single parent families. And a group from our town that is moderately vulnerable are widowed women who never enter the labor market and then that rely only on their widow's pension. So with our help, this type of families can save up to 300 euros annually on their energy bill, which is a lot for those types of families. And the second objective is the creation of a fund, there's a mistake, not voluntarily, but for compulsory contributions, so they can become members. And la Mancomunitat La Plana here puts the 50 euros for each family, so they can become members of the cooperative. And this allows the empowerment of these vulnerable families. To sum up, this initiative supports and empowers vulnerable families in our community while establishing the cooperative sustainable model. Thank you.
Thank you very much, both of you, for this very interesting presentation. So let's open the floor for questions. I had one from the gentleman at the back. if you can move, yeah, perfect, closer to a mic.
Yes, thank you. I will join my beloved colleague Malte from the German NRA for this question. I have 3, so I wrote them down. First of all, thanks for your insights to all speakers. My questions address the Spanish example, so I hope I pronounce your names correct, Laia and Virginia. So I have 3 practical questions with regards to your project. First is, how do you identify vulnerable households and how do you validate that status? Are suppliers allowed to charge extra energy sharing fee to compensate the facilitation and implementation of energy sharing? And if yes, how do you help vulnerable consumers to navigate to a well-informed decision in between the extra cost and the extra benefits that you then can get through energy sharing? And then lastly, that 50 euro contribution to join the energy community, is that being perceived as a barrier for the, if I'm correct, the moderate vulnerable consumers? So 3 questions. Thank you.
Right. Okay. The 50 euros that all members pay are part of the capital of the cooperative. They are there. They are. If one day you decide that you want to leave the community, they are given back to you. So for the moment, they are there, just capital. And being a member of the cooperative gives you other benefits. No? You can use the car. We are starting to get discounts from a few shops from the village, that if you are part of the cooperative, you get a discount in certain shops and things like this. So if you are a member, you get some benefits. The other thing you asked me is, how do we identify the families? Do you want to answer this one?
Yeah. So it's not our job to identify the families. We rely on La Mancomunitat, which is the organization that takes care of the social services. And it's a small town, so it's, I would say that they know vulnerable families, or they can target and manage their ways to find out everybody's situation, especially to have the information on each household, the income, or if they had any type of aid in the past. So we rely on that organization that they can pick the families. It's not our job. And lastly, the question you asked about if the 50 euro is actually a barrier for the not so extreme vulnerable families. In this type of initiatives, when there's a cost to it, an initial cost, this scares a lot of people. So it is a barrier in that sense that they would not rely on us, because they would think that we would continually to charge for different services, which is not the case, and the vulnerable families get the energy for free. But it would be more of a psychological barrier for the future. Yeah.
Thank you, Laia. I saw your hand. You raised your hand. Just before that, I'd like to take a couple of questions online to enable everyone to participate. So there are 2 questions again for Balenyà. Which regulatory requirements is Balenyà Sostenible subject to? For instance, supplier obligation, consumer protection, billing requirements. So what are you doing here? A question about the initiation phase. So how were you identified as a suitable candidate to run that project, I guess?
Yeah, the second. Well, I'll answer the
first one.
Right. The first question. Yes, of course, we follow the regulations. It depends on which regulations. For example, we have to protect the data of all our consumers. So we follow all the rules. And with regards to billing, we have just, at the beginning we were doing it voluntarily, the members from like us, we were doing it on the weekends. But finally we have a new program that makes it easy for us, and we can bill every person with this new program called Hold It, which is things are improving constantly, and I'm not sure which regulations exactly he wanted to know about it, but we'll leave it like this.
Okay.
And the other one is regarding how was interested in the project established? How was Balenyà identified? ¿Vols contestar tu, segona? Okay.
The initiation phase, I guess it's from how the cooperative was created. Maybe you could actually explain more because you founded the cooperative. But I could, because she can explain the difficulties. But so it was a group of friends from our town, Ramon over there and Virginia, and other that cannot come because we're from far away. But so they had this idea of sharing energy in between members of our town. And an option was to buy collectively solar panels and then install them in their roofs. But they had this idea that if they were doing that, they would be lefting out some other type of people from our town that cannot cannot put this initial capital because they don't have it. So they talked with our local government, and they list the public roofs, so we could actually share the energy with any person in the town.
And use the roofs for 25 years.
Yes, and we have a 25-year lease of the roofs. Yes.
Thank you very much. So one of these very small-scale projects that Roland was speaking about at the beginning in the energy communities world. I have a question over there.
Yes. Yeah, thank you for sharing your project. I was going to ask, I imagine you consider different alternatives on how to finance the initial investment. I think that 50 euros are some kind of a social capital, but not a capital for paying the photovoltaic plants. So how do you recover that cost, and why do you don't ask for an initial amount of money to the members?
Okay. At the beginning, because this is very costly, as you know, at the beginning we thought that perhaps people would have to pay more. People would have to pay 1,000 euros to become a member of the community. And then it would be easy to pay the solar installations. But because we are using the roofs from buildings from the town hall of our village, we thought it was kind of unfair to ask persons from the village to pay for the installation of solar plates on top of a building that was from the town hall. And then it was when we decided that they were going to pay 50 euros as a symbolic amount so that they are members of our community. And then the town hall also has the commitment to buy some of the energy themselves. So this is something that we know that for sure that is going to be bought. We also had, from Banca Etica, we have had, banks have been interested in our project and they have given us credits at very low interest. And we have also had subsidies from the Implementa, which is part of the subsidies from Next Generations. We have had some subsidies, but the difference between the subsidies and what we have to pay off, we hope this will be able to be paid off with the amount we charge our members. Yes, at the moment it's working. We hardly make any benefits, but we are doing so far okay. Yeah.
Thank you. We are slowly coming to the end. I would have a last question maybe for Alina regarding what you do we have another 5 minutes? No. Okay, so I'll take this, your question.
Thank you very much. It will be a quick one. So also on the Catalan energy community. So I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned that you received grants under Next Generation EU, so I guess RRF, And we know that receiving EU funds, it can be sometimes quite challenging. So could you maybe share a bit about your experience with the application, but also handling this grant? And also follow-up question, do you consider also, and did you maybe consider applying for other funds, EU funds, for example, under cohesion policy? Thank you.
Well, I must say that the person that has been involved in making the request for the subsidies has been our president, Ramon Roig. He's over there. He's been working really, really hard in order to fill in all the applications, which are quite complicated. And if you want detailed information, I think towards the end of the session you should ask him, because it's been hard work. Yes, I agree. It's been really hard work to get them. Yeah. And the other question, sorry, I forgot.
Are you considering any other funds from the European Commission?
Cannot answer this. You will have to ask Ramon as well, because are we considering other funds?
Well, it's possible.
It's possible.
Yes. I think yes.
Yeah.
Thank you to all the panelists. Round of applause. And I'm giving back the floor to our Master of Ceremony.